What up, Tombs? It's your man, Maz the Machine, back again for another reaction video. I wanted to react to Hugh Brank's latest video, and of course, this is has everything to do with gaming. So Sony was right. So let's check in and see what's going on in the latest gaming news these days.
It's time for a new generation of Xbox!
And now, Microsoft wants to appeal to more than just gamers.
It can also control your TV and cable box and
everything from your movies to video conferencing on Skype to doing all kinds of things.
Casual gaming, television, social, music, and video.
The game console will transform into a next-generation entertainment hub
for both gamers and non-gamers alike. What if I told you that going forward our competition is not going to be Sony and Nintendo?
Microsoft should seriously consider ending the Xbox console business and going full publisher, because at this point, the hardware looks less like a strategy and more like an expensive life support machine. I'm not saying I know billionaire investors personally, but I know people with real money in the stock market, and they all say some version of the same thing. I'd rather lose $1 billion in 2027 than lose $5 billion trying to save something that clearly isn't working. Shut the hardware down, publish everywhere, and maybe that brutal $69 billion Activision Blizzard purchase starts making sense 10 years from now. Harsh? Sure, but look at what Microsoft is doing. Console prices are exploding. Exclusives barely feel exclusive anymore. PC Game Pass is stronger than the actual Xbox console. Mobile is becoming more important, and Microsoft keeps putting its games on PlayStation anyway. So what exactly is the console doing besides swallowing billions of dollars and giving Microsoft another problem to manage? At this point, the Xbox box feels like the weakest part of Xbox. The games are the value. The studios are the value. Game Pass is the value. Call of Duty, Minecraft, Fallout, Elder Scrolls, Doom, Forza, Halo, Gears, all of that is the value. But Microsoft keeps pouring money into keeping a console alive while laying off developers, restructuring studios, and asking the remaining teams to somehow create growth with fewer people.
So I've said this before, I'll say it again. So Xbox, they kind of ruined their own game by going with this everything is in Xbox, right? So they put the message out there that you don't need an Xbox to enjoy Xbox games. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot. But what I will say is Sony's path right now, as far as what they're doing, is actually giving Xbox an opening back into the console wars, back into the market. So let's see what happens.
I'd rather see that hardware money go back into the studios. Keep more developers employed. Give teams more time. Make better games. Stop spending billions trying to convince people to buy a 1 terabyte console for around $800 or a Series S for around $600. Who is that for? The Series S was supposed to be the cheap entry point, and now it costs premium console money. The Series X is old hardware being sold at next-generation prices. That is not a comeback plan. That's Microsoft charging more because fewer people are buying, which is a pretty ugly circle to get trapped in. And I know people still have love for the Xbox brand. I do too. The Xbox 360 era was incredible, but those players are not sitting around waiting to come back. A lot of them moved to PC. A lot moved to PlayStation. Some stopped caring about console loyalty altogether.
And now there's a lot of Sony boys, including myself, I'm a Sony fan, looking to move to PC or Xbox. So me personally, I have all three platforms, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. I enjoy them all for, each one has pros and cons. But when it comes to business moves, I don't agree with Sony. I think Xbox shot themselves in the foot, like I said earlier, but let's see.
Kinect damaged the brand. The Xbox One launch damaged it even more. Then Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond showed up smiling, promising the moon, talking about players first, the biggest ecosystem in gaming, and a future where everything would finally come together. Instead, Microsoft spent $69 billion, cut thousands of jobs, raised prices, weakened the identity of the console, and still can't explain why someone should buy an Xbox instead of playing Xbox games somewhere else. So yes, go full multi-platform. Put the games on PlayStation PlayStation, Nintendo, PC, cloud, mobile, wherever people are willing to pay. Use the strengths you actually have instead of clinging to a hardware battle you already lost. Take the Xbox console out behind the barn, let it look at the beautiful golden hour sunset, thank it for the memories, and pull the trigger. The Xbox 360 diehards are not coming back to buy an $800 Series X. They're already on PC and PS5, playing Microsoft's games there. That's your audience now. That's your strength. Use it. Stop pretending the box is still the center of the business, and maybe Xbox finally turns a real profit by 2028. So what would you rather see Microsoft do? Keep burning money to preserve the console? Or finally accept that Xbox works better as the biggest third-party publisher in gaming?
Ouch. Ouch. So I've had this argument with my boys. Mr. Green will can attest. The strength of PlayStation is its exclusives. Last of Us, Days Gone, Spider-Man, Wolverine, Uncharted. Those are the key games that have people um, on PlayStation. If you've been a PlayStation guy as long as I have, my library is extensive and it includes every exclusive. The whole reason now, and I would say this is me being fully transparent as a gamer. I hate the way Sony's doing things now. I would step off and just go to Xbox and PC, which I do. I buy games on those platforms as well. But I have such a big library and an extensive library invested in Sony. I'm just not going to walk away. It just doesn't do me any good as far as having built up these libraries, right? You can say, oh, you don't have to buy any new exclusives coming up. You don't, but I want to. Sony's proven their exclusives are dope. So it'll just be I only buy Sony exclusives on PlayStation. That's it. Everything else I'll buy on Xbox or PC. But that's just me.
Orale, vato. We're trying to see that product. Yo, Sleepy, what's up, homie? You know my cousin, Sad Boy.
I think you got the wrong guy, Holmes.
Everyone's saying that barrio Sleepy, he like the Mexican Wolverine. And my partner, he want to see that product.
When he talking?
Here are the biggest gaming leaks and news you've probably missed this week. Sony even counts free-to-play games as digital purchases. Imagine being so desperate to inflate your numbers that downloading something for $0 suddenly counts as a sale. Peak corporate clown behavior.
Oh, really? That sucks.
Okay, let me put this as nicely as I possibly can. You're confusing a $0 store transaction with a sale. Those are not the same thing. Yes, Sony sends you a receipt when you claim a free game because it has to attach the license to your account. Every digital storefront does this. It doesn't mean they just booked revenue. Their investor reports measure revenue and units sold, not every free download. A free-to-play game doesn't magically become a paid sale because you got a receipt. And your claim that Sony is counting free downloads to inflate the digital ratio so they can justify killing physical games? Where's the evidence? You're taking a checkout email and turning it into an accounting policy that Sony has never said exists. These are financial reports. They're legal documents prepared for investors and shareholders. They have to follow accounting standards because they're reporting actual financial performance, not trying to win arguments on social media. If Sony were counting free downloads as paid sales, that would be a pretty serious issue. Criticize Sony all you want. I do it too when they deserve it. But at least criticize them for things they actually do instead of making stuff up.
Well, we're not making that up, right? So as the constituency here, or as the audience, Sony is tripping. They're tripping balls, counting $0 sales as sales. No, it don't work that way, Sony. They oh my God. Tripping, man.
I know you played the Spider-Man games,
yes.
Love them, and there's so much influence in this movie.
Yeah.
What was a specific thing in those games that you were like, oh, we have to do that?
A lot of the finishing moves. I was actually playing the...
How Marvel Spider-Man games influenced Brand New Day? Okay, let's see. Spider-Man Brand New Day versus Insomniac Spider-Man. What? It's two different things.
Game last night. Couldn't sleep last night. I was so excited about today. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I was like, I'll just throw the game on and have some fun. And yeah, for me, a lot of those like finishing moves, a lot of our stuff was influenced by that stuff.
I love that. And
Spider-Man Brand New Day just made box office history. And somehow, one of the coolest details is that some of its biggest fight moves came straight out of the PlayStation games. Tom Holland says Insomniac's Spider-Man games directly inspired the movie's action, especially those stylish finishing moves where Peter takes down an enemy like he's trying to earn bonus points. He was even playing the game the night before the premiere because he was too excited to sleep, which is kind of perfect. The guy spends all day being Spider-Man, then goes home and plays Spider-Man to relax. But Holland wasn't the only gamer on set. Director Destin Daniel Cretton said several stunt performers and action designers were huge fans of the games, and they would literally capture screenshots of moves they liked, bring them into the writer's room, and ask how they could recreate them for real. That's
See, this goes back to my point with Sony exclusives. That's how good Sony exclusives are. They are that great to where now the Marvel cinema is using bits from the game. And not to mention the fact that Insomniac's Spider-Man is canon. It is actually canon. I forgot which universe it is, 10216, I believe. Somebody correct me in the comments. But going to that point, Sony exclusives are the absolute bomb. It's Hiroshima, basically. And another point I wanted to make, Spider-Man Brand New Day, first day box office sales is out of the park. This brings me back to a discussion I was having with one of my bros, Mr. Green. In defense of Supergirl, he was saying box office doesn't mean success. It absolutely does. It might become a culture or a cult classic in the future, but as far as success right now, as far as success for the character, as far as success for building that universe, didn't match. It didn't match Superman. I can't see how they can bring Supergirl into the universe with Superman, being that they have conflicting ideologies now. But, we can continue that discussion at another time.
such a cool reversal because superhero games have spent years trying to recreate the feeling of the movies, and now the movie is studying the game to figure out how Spider-Man should fight. Usually, games borrow the camera angles, costumes, and action from Hollywood.
Sorry, I keep stopping the video. Garfield Spider-Man was the best actual fight or fighter out of the entire Spider-Man series. Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield. If you look at how Andrew Garfield Spider-Man fought, he actually fought like a spider. Down in the sewers, he had the whole spider web thing, and he reacted to which webs were actually trembling or signaling that something or somebody was there, right? When he fought the lizard, he was webbing him up as he's crawling over him. Best cinematic fighting in Amazing Spider-Man with Garfield.
This time, Hollywood looked at Insomniac's combat and said, yeah, we need that. You can almost picture the stunt team pausing the game during some ridiculous aerial takedown and trying to work out which brave person they're going to launch across the room. Sony also brought the whole thing full circle by adding Tom Holland's Brand New Day suit to Spider-Man 2, along with a suit inspired by Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls. So the game inspired the movie's combat, then the movie gave a new suit back to the game. Spider-Man is basically passing ideas between different versions of himself at this point. And the timing could not have worked out better, because Brand New Day didn't simply have a big opening. It broke the domestic record. The movie earned $360 million in North America during its opening weekend, beating Avengers Endgame's previous record of $357 million. Early estimates suggested it might fall slightly short, but apparently underestimating Spider-Man was a terrible idea. Globally, Brand New Day brought in $927 million in one weekend, making it the second biggest worldwide opening ever behind Endgame's $1.2 billion. Just think about that for a second. Most movies would celebrate making $927 million across their entire theatrical run. Brand New Day did it before the first Monday. It also flew past its reported $225 million production budget almost immediately, although the studio will still have marketing costs and theater revenue splits to account for. Still, this is an enormous win for Sony and a major boost for Marvel after several recent movies struggled to generate the same level of excitement the brand had at its peak. Brand New Day now gives Marvel real momentum heading into Avengers Doomsday, but it also proves something we probably already knew. Spider-Man is still on another level. No Way Home made nearly $2 billion worldwide, and now Brand New Day has opened with numbers that almost no franchise can touch. The movie also seems to be connecting with audiences, with some viewers calling this Tom Holland's best performance as Peter Parker. That makes sense when you look at where the story begins. Peter is living in a world that has forgotten him, so there's more more loneliness, more pressure, and probably a little more desperation in the way he fights. Add in action inspired by Insomniac's games, and you get a version of Spider-Man who can feel emotionally broken one minute, then hit someone with a 5-move finishing combo the next. This is one of those rare moments where every version of the character is making the others better. The comics inspire the games inspire the movie, and the movie sends new ideas back into the games. So when you watch—
And that's what we're after. That's what we like to see. That's where you're doing good, Sony. But your businesses, though. Just because you do good in one area, don't let it blow up your head and think that all of us gamers or fans are just going to sit here and swallow whatever you take. You know, at this point, the way Sony is doing business, I'm not even thinking about purchasing a PS6. PS5 might be my last Sony console, to be quite honest. And that's going to suck because I love the exclusive,
brand new
right?
day, are you more excited to spot the PlayStation-inspired finishing moves or to see which movie move Insomniac steals for the next game? I've called Sony out at least 12 times in the past month over this entire digital versus physical mess, and I didn't exactly whisper about it. I've questioned ownership, preservation, account security, licensing, PSN outages, used games, pricing, retailer impact, and what players are actually getting in return when Sony takes more control. So when somebody calls me a Sony apologist because I bring up numbers they don't like, I have to wonder whether they've been listening to anything I've said or whether they only hear facts when those facts support their side. Because Sony just released its first quarter financial results, and we finally have something more useful than angry posts, selective polls, and screenshots from one local game store. We have real money. We have sales data. We have forecasts. We have Sony's chief financial officer being directly asked whether the backlash is hurting the business, and her answer was no. According to Lin Tao, Sony is seeing zero impact on its business right now, and because such a large share of PlayStation content sales is already digital, the company does not expect ending disc production to create a negative financial impact. Sony still says it understands that players are attached to physical games, but it also says it plans to cautiously move forward. In normal language, that means Sony hears the complaints, but the numbers are giving it no financial reason to reverse course. And that is a very hard pill to swallow, especially when you've spent weeks convincing yourself that the backlash must already be destroying PlayStation behind closed doors. Sony's first quarter operating profit climbed 40% to 476.5 billion yen, helped by gaming and image sensors. The company then raised its full-year operating profit forecast by 8% to 1.72 trillion yen, which was roughly $10.7 billion at the exchange rate used in the report. Sony also raised its sales forecast to 12.5 trillion yen and its net income forecast to 1.21 trillion yen. This is not a company looking at its financial report and panicking because people are canceling a few subscriptions on social media. Sony is forecasting an enormous year, and PlayStation is one of the reasons why. Now, does that mean Sony's decision is good for consumers? No. Does it mean physical game supporters should pack everything up and go home? No. Does it prove digital ownership is better? Of course not. Financial success and consumer fairness are two completely different questions. A company can make record money while doing something that takes options away from customers. In fact, those two things often happen together because removing customer choice can give the company more control over pricing, distribution, resale, and access. But this is where some people are sabotaging their own argument. They're taking a legitimate cause and attaching claims to it that the available evidence does not support. They say physical games still dominate when Sony's own sales mix says otherwise. They say the backlash is already hurting PlayStation financially when Sony says it currently sees no impact. They point to a handful of canceled subscriptions, one store selling out of discs, or one social media poll, and treat that like a complete picture of a global platform with millions of users. That is not hard data. That is a collection of anecdotes wearing a fake mustache and pretending to be statistics. The available figures show why Sony feels so comfortable. During the previous fiscal year, PlayStation reportedly generated around $781 million from physical game sales, compared with roughly $6.5 billion from digital full game sales and around $8.4 billion from add-ons and in-game purchases. You can hate what those numbers represent, but you cannot make them disappear. Physical games still matter deeply to collectors, preservationists, rural players, people with weak internet, families that share games, budget-conscious buyers, and anyone who depends on used copies. But financially, physical software has become a small piece of Sony's much larger digital machine. And this is where people need to put on the parachute. Your cause can be completely noble, but noble causes are not protected from bad arguments. Denying statistics, creating highly selective charts, using one country to represent the entire world, or picking the 3 numbers that help you while avoiding the 20 elephants standing behind them does not strengthen your position. It hands Sony an easy win. It's like jumping out of a plane without a parachute because you read a thread claiming gravity is exaggerated. You may have a brilliant theory about landing safely, but gravity is still waiting underneath you. Put the parachute on before you step onto the plane. In this debate, the parachute is intellectual honesty. Admit that digital sales dominate. Admit that the current backlash has not shown up in Sony's financial results. Admit that most PlayStation customers probably will not join a boycott. Admit that Sony believes it can make more money by controlling distribution directly. Once you admit those things, your argument actually becomes stronger because now you can focus on the issue that matters. A profitable decision can still be anti-consumer. Sony making more money does not protect your purchases. Strong digital revenue does not guarantee permanent access.
Arc Raiders is such a great game, and it's very difficult. But yeah, so I mean, the point to all of this is, at the end of the day, these corporations don't care about you. They don't care about money you spend. They don't care about your library. There's pros and cons to both digital and disc, right? So discs, they scratch, they're not going to play. Uh, your lens inside of your console breaks, it's not going to play any games. So with digital, the whole argument is you don't really own the game. When the servers go down, that's it. It's kaput. Usually servers last usually, right? Usually 10 years and beyond. You know, there's some PS3 games that are still on, but Sony's shutting those down. Now, there's the fact also that you, as a private citizen, can host networks, servers yourself. So, those of us that are into gaming that deep, that want to set up servers, it can be done. I'm studying it now to see how it can be done. Right. So, there's pros and cons to everything.
A record forecast does not solve licensing problems, account theft, server outages, regional pricing, preservation, resale, lending, or the possibility that a game can disappear from sale. Those are the arguments Sony should be forced to answer, not imaginary claims about physical games secretly outselling digital games, and not predictions that one week-long blackout will suddenly send PlayStation's entire business crashing into the ocean. The planned PlayStation blackout is scheduled from August 23rd through August 30th, and people are being encouraged to avoid playing, spending money, and using PlayStation services during that period. Sony clearly does not expect it to matter, but that does not automatically make the protest worthless. A protest can raise awareness, create pressure, attract media attention, and show that a committed section of the audience refuses to quietly accept the decision. But if people are claiming the blackout will financially cripple Sony, the next earnings report is going to test that claim very quickly. Sony has more than enough money moving through PlayStation for a small temporary decline to disappear inside the wider business. The blackout would need major participation, clear demands, measurable spending changes, and continued pressure beyond 1 week to become something Sony cannot ignore. Right now, Sony appears completely unbothered, and its record-level forecast explains why. The protest is real, but so is the scale of the company it is trying to pressure. And just as Sony is getting dragged for ending physical game discs, Microsoft may be preparing its own version of the same future. A leaked internal roadmap says Xbox could launch a disc-to-digital feature this month for Xbox One and Series X owners. The idea sounds convenient at first. You put a physical game into the console, Microsoft scans it, and your account receives a digital license for that game. But here's the catch. Once that disc is converted, it can no longer be activated on another console, rented out, borrowed, or sold to someone else. So the physical copy in your hand basically stops functioning like a normal physical game and becomes a one-time.
All right, so I'll just give my final thoughts on this here. I don't want to bore you guys with all the details. So that right there, Microsoft is planning, sounds great, but it just kills the secondhand market. So they're effectively doing what Sony wants to do in controlling the secondhand market. So you pop the disc in, digital license, you can play, but you can't let your friend borrow that disc. It's not going to work. So what these companies are trying to do is control the second-hand market. They want to maximize as much property as they can off these games that they make. As a business, I understand. As a business, I understand why physical discs are no longer profitable for them to spend the money to make them if they're not going to sell as much as digital. I get that point. You know, somebody asked me, why do I wear a mask on this channel? That's because I just want to represent the basic casual gamer. not somebody that's tied to one console or one brand at all. Like I said, I'm a Sony fan, I'm an Xbox fan, I'm a PC fan. Wherever I can play games that I enjoy and they run well, then that's where I'm going to buy it. Moving forward, even if Sony keeps on with this and I say, oh, I'm not going to be buying as much Sony games as I used to, then so be it. I'll buy everything else on another platform. So my mental, or what I'm trying to get through to you guys out there in YouTube land, is just play wherever you feel comfortable. What console do you like the most that you find provides the best bang for your buck? Then go with that. We shouldn't be in a situation where we're like, oh, Xbox this or Sony this, because neither Xbox or Sony or PC gives a fuck about you. They just don't. It's great if you buy their games. Put yourself in the stance of a business owner. If you have a product that people are gobbling up and it's selling, and then let's say 2, 3, 15, or 25% of your audience says, hey, we got a problem with this, but you're raking in millions and millions of money or dollars over here, are you really going to care? Are you going to take time out of your productive work to focus on the smaller group? Or are you going to say, hey, the bigger group is bringing in the most money, so that's where I'm going to keep my focus at? So it's something that you have to think about as a consumer. I understand that most of us grew up with games. We're gamers tried and true. I know me and my boys are. But at the same time, you have to be an adult. The gaming industry grew up with us from Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, uh, all these other systems now bring us to the Big 26, and this is where we're at. The gaming industry grew up, and it's not about just um, making great games anymore, sadly. It's about that dollar mark. It really is. You got to understand that part. Again, I'm not voting. I don't have a dog in either race. I'll play wherever I feel is the best bang for buck for myself. I wish that for you, and ultimately I wish great games, good gaming. But until the next time, you can find me here on this YouTube channel, and you can find me on PSN under Mavs the Machine, MAV3 TH3 Machine 3. And it's the same on Xbox. So you can find me on either. I usually play COD, Tekken, whatever you want to get down on. But that's it for now. Until next time, like I said, GG's.